Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangle.
Well, welcome to episode number 51 of the Monday Money Tip Podcast. My name is Joseph Sangle, fired up to help you in your money journey. I'm joined by my co-host, David Nimmons. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great.
That's awesome. And you're our temporary tentative
temporary co-host.
Co-host. I don't know if
that makes my heart break.
That's great. I know it does. But Megan Hibbard has been out on maternity leave. Super excited to have David sitting in with us today. He's a member of the team. We've been friends since 1998, and so that's 21 years of ridiculousness. And we've been on the same team for about 7 or 8 years now. It's kind of crazy how fast time goes. But today, we're going to talk about some right now relevant information called your top money questions. Is that right?
Yes, it's the last Monday of the month here in June, and that means it's time for us to answer your top money questions. These will be answered in a rapid-fire style, and we'll get through as many as possible. We're going to talk about credit cards. We're going to talk about refinancing. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about it all.
That's great.
Are you ready for these rapid-fire questions?
And I rarely see all these questions in advance. Maybe I've seen some of these, but this is going to be fun. I always love that. It's going to be a play Stump Joe. It'll be great. And if I get stumped, then that means David is going to answer.
Woo!
Yes. But before we get to the heart of all those questions and your money questions and the variety show known as the Monday Money Tip, we have that great, most anticipated section of the podcast. Let's go.
Now it's time to get caught up with our current money events.
Current events. The sponsor for this current event, this portion of the podcast is sponsored by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. Take your finances to the next level by utilizing our financial tools and calculators. Visit www.iwbnin.com. Click on tools. There's budget templates, debt freedom date calculators, retirement calculators, investment calculators. They're all right there at your fingertips. And guess what? They're free.
That's awesome. And I am so excited in a negative way to talk about the U.S. national debt. We give this update every so often. And so today, as of the time of recording this podcast, is $22,276,830,819,158. And it's increased since the last update, which was March 25th, by only $166 billion. Isn't that awesome?
Yikes.
Yikes is right. So it's increased, it's about, 42, 44 days since we updated it last, since we recorded last. And you know what? That's about $4 billion a day. So the debt per citizen has went to $67,736. And the debt per taxpayer, because not everybody pays taxes, kids don't pay taxes, stay-at-home spouses don't pay taxes, $523 per taxpayer. Get fired up. And listen, it's not as much of a problem when economic times are great, but can become a huge problem when economic times are not great, which is going to happen at some point in time in the future. And I encourage you to consider the position of any political candidate, what they have on the national debt, and let that help guide your voting. It's not the only issue, but it's a wildly important issue. And if you want to know more about our thoughts on this topic, make sure you listen to episode number 48. Where we devoted nearly an entire podcast to discuss this very topic and what you can do to address the U.S. national debt. And if you're a Canadian bystander watching what we're doing here in the United States, you can just wipe your brow and say, man, I'm glad it's not as bad here in Canada. But I do want everybody to know this national debt is a big issue. I want you to be aware of it. It's right now relevant, and I want you to do your part to make sure we get people elected who are going to do something about it and be held accountable to it. And so I'll say that in summary of today's current money events section. Nailed it. Done. Out. Now we come to the great moment where we love to hear your success story. And we like to hear the success story. And you guys email us them in from time to time. And this entire podcast is ran and fueled, not by diesel fuel, not by nitro, but by your success stories. And so today we have a success story. Read it to us, David.
Absolutely. This is from Ron. We recently went on vacation. Hey, that's awesome. This was our first real family vacation. My wife planned the whole thing, and she used a budget for the first time. You would think that having a budget for your vacation would be like wearing a straitjacket. Hey, I believe I've been there, done that. However, we found it liberating because the budget included everything we wanted to do, so we didn't have to worry about how much dinner cost when we went out. That's awesome. In fact, we were excited if the dinner came out was just a little under the estimate. We stayed within our budget and even returned home with a bottle of wine for our dog sitter. We actually did challenge the cost of a few things and tell you God can tear down those mountains. We reduced our car insurance and cell phone bills. We canceled cable over a year ago, and we just got an offer to come back to cable for a ridiculous low rate. Get fired up. As much as I'm reluctant to refinance our mortgage, we are likely to take the opportunity offered by the HARP and lower our payment by almost $200 a month because the closing costs are so low. And that's from Ron.
Way to go, Ron. So I want to say a few things. Number one, vacation. It's wildly important. Wildly important. It's actually a resetting moment for most people. It allows people to really do great things with their minds. Something that I always say, and I've heard said before, I've repeated it, is that a change of place plus a change of pace equals a change perspective. If you go on vacation and you don't have debt chasing you home, well, let me tell you, that's great.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I love is they kind of made it a game. They're excited if dinner came out just a little under their budget estimate. So that's great. They even brought a gift for their dog sitter. I'm going to get a dog. Mark my words. I'm going to get a Wolfie.
False.
I want a dog. My bride, y'all, I need podcast listeners to pray for me. I know Jen joined us on the podcast, and I didn't have the heart to bring it up there again, but she certainly heard that I want a Wolfie, and so I need a little puppy.
What is your statement about a boy only needs two things?
Yeah, a boy needs two things, a dog and a mama who'll let him have one. And so my boy needs a puppy, and I need a puppy because I'm still just a boy. And so a boy needs a puppy. And I know a lot of ladies who need their puppy too. So puppies are awesome. And I like kitty cats too, but my next one is a puppy. And so this is great that Ron shared this because he also shared that he took action with his finances.
Yeah.
He cut cable. They stayed away from it for a year. He got his car insurance reduced. 15 minutes or less could save you 15% or more. Well, you already knew that. And their cell phone bill. And he's reluctant to refinance the mortgage, but they might take the advantage of what's offered by HARP, the Home Affordable Refinance Plan. But I would just say to Ron, be careful with that. You don't want to reset back to a 30-year note.
Yeah.
If you're 7 years in, reset it to a 23-year note because that's very important that you don't get reset back. That's how you end up 60 years old and still owe 20 years on a mortgage.
Yeah.
Be careful with that. Great success story, Ron. Thanks for sharing it.
Absolutely.
That leads us to the teaching next steps section where we're going to talk about all the crazy questions sent in by all of our listeners. I can't wait. Send them to me. Let's go.
All right, let's get started with the very first question. How many credit cards should I have?
Oh, this is a big question. Is this a setup question? What do you think the answer should be?
Well, it depends. If the credit card is an issue, you should probably have the answer easy.
What does it mean it's an issue?
Exactly 0. If you can't control you and you're spending your credit card, you probably should have 0.
That's the right answer. If you can't pay it off every month and you just find that you spend more than you can pay off every month or you spend wildly and can't stick with your budget, you need to have 0 credit cards.
Absolutely.
But a better question is, we just respond to that question always, do you carry credit card balances month to month? In other words, do you pay your balance off each and every month and pay $0 in interest and fees? If you have no balance and you pay 0 interest and you stick to your budget, 1 or 2 cards is fine. But if you have a balance and you are paying interest, you should have none. That's right. So we can say 1 if you do well, and you can add an N to the front of that. It spells the word none if you can't control it. Do you see it?
Yes.
None or 1. Maybe 2. I have like 6. I have 1 for each of the 4 businesses that I run around with, and I have 2 personal ones because I got a whole bunch of miles. I've never paid $1 of interest since I changed.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I went 6 years without a credit card. From 2002 to 2008, I had no credit card because I could not control me.
That's good.
I got new habits. I applied those new habits. And I know that it's bandied about that, credit cards are of the devil. Credit cards are sinful. Credit cards are horrible. But I will tell you this, Delta, American Airlines, Hertz, they're not too interested in accepting cash.
Yeah.
And you can use your debit card. I use credit cards. I get the points, and we share those with all the employees in the form of gift cards at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we pay no interest. And so I also know that my American Express card gets me into concierge lounges at airports around the nation. You've went in them with me with free, 5-star chef type cooking and drinks and a place to sit and cookies and bananas and a shower. And we even got a massage once. It was incredible. And sleeping quarters and a place to get away and really not have to sit at a weird seat at an airport where everything's in your lap. You can sit down at a real table in a real setting. So there's side benefits to a lot of this stuff as well, especially for corporate card carriers. And so that's where I'm at on credit cards.
Absolutely.
I welcome everybody's opinion. And if you hate on me, that's great. Email us. If you like that, say go Joe and go David on your comments on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I think before you move on to that next question, I mean, just the reminder that, hey, the credit card is not the issue. You are the issue if there is an issue.
That's it.
Paying debt.
That's it. I mean, listen, it might be an enabler of poor behavior, but ultimately, who's doing the behavior?
Absolutely.
Credit card didn't swipe itself.
Yeah.
There you go.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the second question. This one's going to get you real fired up. You ready? Can I get my student loans forgiven?
Yes, there are ways to get that.
Okay.
It does fire me up. Student loans, people sign these lines to get these degrees and then somehow or another feel like they were victimized. I don't understand that. I know I was 18 years old when I went to college. I knew full well when they put the piece of paper in front of me to sign that I was obligating myself to debt. I was. And I remember distinctly people saying, college is so expensive these days compared to what it was 10 years ago. Well, guess what? 10 years later, it's even more expensive, and it's more expensive. Yeah. It's always just gotten more expensive. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for you and what you sign your name to. And heaven forbid you go to a community school for the first couple years or a tech school and you transfer those credit in. But let me tell you, those degree and the teaching in those schools, just as good as the main school. Listen, most employers could care less where the degree came from. Very few jobs say you have to graduate from Harvard. Now, there are a few. So if you're going to go into law, you want to go in to be a CEO, that sort of thing, go to Purdue or Harvard, right? No, I added Purdue to that. However, Purdue has put a lot of people in the CEO seat. So what I would say is this. There are some ways to have your student loans forgiven. It's for specific jobs and degrees. So public service employees, teachers, healthcare professionals working in so-called underserved areas can get help with having their student loans forgiven. They might have a plan. Many plans are like this. You serve here for 5 consecutive years, and we will write off whatever you owe of your student loans. There's a couple others, and I'm going to have them in the show notes. One of them is called an IBR, an income-based repayment program. Most of those set up repayments based upon your income, and you make those payments on time, consecutive for those 20 years. Whatever remains at the end is wiped out. You don't owe the rest. Another one is called Pay As You Earn, PAYE. So this is pay as you earn, and you don't have to pay more than a ridiculous amount that would just take all your earnings away from you. Another way is to join the military. The military, if you join and you have student loan debt, many times they have a plan where if you serve, they will wipe out that debt. And a great article I've got linked here is from studentloanhero.com. And it's the complete list of student loan forgiveness programs. I took a look at this, and it was one of the best articles I've seen written on the topic. So if you have a pile of student loans, and you're in one of these categories of public service employees, teachers, healthcare professional, you're serving in an underserved area, you've got low income related to your student loan, check that out, studentloanhero.com. The title is The Complete List of Student Loan Forgiveness Programs that can be very helpful to you.
That's good. That's good. Another question that gets asked tons of times, is it smart to refinance a house? Is it smart to refinance a house?
It depends, is the answer. So if you plan on staying for a while, it can make a lot of sense to refinance, especially if the interest rate is lower. Obviously, you don't really want to refinance to a higher interest rate. But here's the big concern. people usually choose to reset back to the original length of the loan.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Ron's success story earlier. I mentioned that. Didn't know this was going to be the question here, really. But people choose to reset back to the original length of the loan. And many people are 8 years into paying off their loan. They got 22 years left. They refinance to a 30-year loan.
Yeah.
They're all excited. My payment went down $250, all this stuff. Well, let me tell you, they've been paying on that loan from age 25 to 33. And now they were going to be paying it off at 55.
Yeah.
But they've reset it. Now the payoff is 63 if they pay it off as scheduled.
Yeah.
And if they do that one more time, that's a major setback. Going into retirement with a house payment is a problem. So I just really encourage you, don't do that unless it's an extreme case where your income has been hit and you're going to go broke. But here's what I would tell you. You want to do the math. And you can Google Joe Sangel and refinance calculator. I've linked to some before that are really good that help you compare different refinance options versus what you're paying right now to tell you whether or not it makes sense to refinance. And of course, you can always email us and ask us. We'll send you the analysis generally for free. It might take us a couple days, but you can email us at info@iwasbrokenowimnot.com. We can quickly do that analysis pretty swiftly.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question is, we get this asked a few times too, is what in the world is Bitcoin?
What is Bitcoin? Let me tell you, that's my question. Who really knows what Bitcoin is? It's a made-up currency that has a limited supply, and therefore it has value, and others give it a perceived value.
Yeah.
And therefore, people are willing to accept it in exchange for goods or services. And so it is a so-called cryptocurrency, and it is not very regulated. And here's the big issue. Whenever you look at a U.S. dollar, it's regulated by the U.S. government.
Okay.
Go to Canada, they have Canadian dollars. We're going to Canada this summer. We're fired up about that. We're taking our sons, right? It's going to be great. We're going to be dealing with Canadian currency. It's issued by the sovereign government of Canada. Go to China, same thing. Japan, same thing. Australia, same thing. South Africa. You go to Germany. You go to the Eurozone. It's euros. You go to Britain, it's the pound.
Yeah.
And they have their own currency. And the reason they do that is they can regulate money supply. They can regulate how that money is distributed. They can also regulate counterfeiting so that they have control of the currency. It's very important to management of a government. Cryptocurrency operates outside the bounds of that. And so it tends to, since it's not regulated, it's not very traceable, it tends to attract nefarious creatures.
Yeah.
Criminal organizations, large criminal organizations. And so it is a legitimate thing. I think there's more value long-term in the cryptocurrency side and how that can affect a lot of other things, not just currency, that crypto side of it. But ultimately, we saw Bitcoin run up to almost $19,000 per Bitcoin. It's dropped back down to around $5,600 right now. So it's dropped by over 2/3. And most people who invest in it had no idea what they're investing in.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be subject to more regulation. These governments are going to get control of it. They may be slow to act, but when they act, they are going to get control because they don't like seeing this money flow back and forth between these organizations. They want to know the flow of money because they see the flow of money, they can control things, and they want control. And so what is Bitcoin? Who knows? But it is a thing. You can track it. If you're investing any money in it and you don't know exactly how it works, I would call it what I call greedy money investing. Be willing to lose all that money if you're going to put the money in there.
Absolutely.
If you make money, congratulations.
Good. Hey, the next question I want to ask, are there percentage guidelines that I should follow when creating a budget?
Yes, absolutely. And so just to give you a quick framework, we do like to say a simple plan, a 6-word plan for financial success is give, save, invest, plan the rest. Give, save, invest, plan the rest. It rhymes if you say it right. And so we say 10% to the first 3, 70% to the rest. That's a simple method.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if you're on up the ladder and you're at rung number 6, we would say invest 15%. And if you're on up to rung number 8, you've paid off your house, all your debt is gone, you're totally debt-free, then 30% or more. But a good start point is 10% giving, 10% saving, 10% investing, and then 70% for the rest. You do that, you will prosper. If you want to add a little more complexity there, Food cost around 15 to 20% of a household budget. When we look at a house payment, it shouldn't exceed 25% of your take-home pay. The house payment or rent payment plus your utilities and things like internet and power, water, gas, garbage pickup, whatever, shouldn't exceed 35% of your take-home pay. When we look at overall financial management, we don't want to see debt, non-house debt, like your cars, owing other people, repaying student loans. We don't want to exceed it 15% of your take-home pay. If it does so, it will start choking out your ability to eat, sleep, and breathe.
Yeah.
And so those are general guidelines for creating a budget. And when you look at our budget template, it actually calculates those percentages for you in those major categories, can really help you see if something's out of whack.
Absolutely. Well, the next question is really an extension from that. Hey, if I tithe off the gross amount of my paycheck, how do these percentages change, or do they change?
They don't. So, if you're putting in your take-home pay on the top line, and that take-home pay is after you've had your 401k or similar type retirement taken out, and you had some money sent over to a savings account, of course it'll increase the percentage. But if you go back and put your gross income at the top and then list all your taxes in your budget as well, then those percentages don't change at all. So
Absolutely.
that's just a fact. So they don't. It's a simple answer. So the helpful tool and app is all of our free tools at our website. I got a couple of great quotes that go along with this. So will you read the one from Ralph Waldo Emerson?
Money often costs too much.
That's right. Money often costs too much. And that's kind of funny.
Deep Thoughts by Ralph.
Yeah, good poet. Money often costs too much. That's hilarious. And then I like Richard Friedman. He said, money will buy you a fine dog, but only love can make it wag its tail. I like that a lot. And so those are a couple funny quotes as it relates to money. And so we have a couple minutes for a couple hot seat questions. You got any for me?
Absolutely. If you had to rename yourself, what name would you give yourself?
Octavius.
Octavius. There
Absolutely.
you go.
Octavius. I'd love it. Very few people have that name. I love that name.
How about
Octavius.
How about Boaz?
Nope, not Boaz.
Not Boaz?
Nope.
All right. If you could be a animal, what kind of animal would you be?
I wouldn't want to be a deer.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it better not be a deer.
It's too many hunters
Unless
around.
I'm shooting, then he would be
yeah.
safe.
If I could be an animal, what kind of animal would I be? I think I would be an eagle with arms.
An eagle
I'd
with
also want
arms.
arms because I can't imagine eating without hands. Think about it. They perch on something and they have to have their face down in their food, tearing stuff off to eat it. Like they have to have their face in their food. But if they had hands, they could bring it up to their mouth, bites at a time.
Okay.
But you can fly. Think about how you could fly.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Very interesting.
Very high, you could fly, and you're like the dominant raptor.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
So
and then people would cry when they see you and salute because
Okay.
you're the bald eagle. Be awesome.
That's crazy. So the final question before we get there, it's going to be a would you rather
Okay.
question.
I
And,
hate these
and I think
questions.
about would you rather. My kids, Caleb and Grace, asked me, Daddy, would you rather ... Does Keaton ever ask you a crazy would you rather?
No.
Okay. So this is going to put your thinking cap on. You ready?
Yes.
Would you rather leave your hometown but never be able to return, or stay in your hometown but never be able to leave?
I'd rather leave my hometown and never be able to return. That's a very small area.
Yeah.
And I can find a lot of areas similar to my hometown, and people could come visit me from it. And that would be a variety. It's the spice of life. And my hometown is like one cornfield after another, and I love them all. But it's one cornfield after another, and I can find that anywhere from Ohio to Nebraska. And
Okay.
I can't find mountains. I can't find large Grand Canyons. I can't find the Great Wall of China. I can't find the Eiffel Tower. I can't find food in France, which is amazing. Italian food. Oh, my goodness. And so, I would rather just say I can't ever come back.
Awesome. So speaking of hometown, this is interesting. This is another question. Question 4. What would you consider your hometown.
I know it's kind of
That's
weird,
great.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So my hometown is where you grow up, and if you live for 18 years somewhere from 0 to 18, that's
Yeah.
your hometown.
Okay.
So it's south of Shelbyville, Indiana. I get fired up.
Yeah.
But Anderson, South Carolina, has become my hometown where I'm never leaving.
Woohoo!
I've left once. I'm not leaving again. Taproot to the ground.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, we're super excited that you guys joined us for this episode. We hope you like this variety of money questions today. They've kind of been all over the map, which is great. We hope you take time to rate this podcast and leave a review. Those ratings and reviews help us make our podcast better for our listeners. And on the last Monday of the month, just like we did today, we answer your top money questions. So send us your questions and your success stories to info@iwbnin.com. Who knows, your question or success story might be featured in an upcoming show. Until then, it's Monday. Get fired up and go change your finances, change the world around you. Smile, tell someone hello, and make sure that you use something that you learned from a current money events section and impress somebody with your financial knowledge. Get fired up.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit iwbnin.com. We'll catch you next time.